I think right now we're going to basically, Diana is going to come and have a few words. You're welcome. I'll be right here for you, so.
Okay, this is going to be very few words. First of all, thanks so much for coming. Mom loved all of you and you loved all of her. And I love you all for loving her. Be sure to look at this stuff because you'll find yourself in this stuff. Look through the notebooks and stuff. It's just fun. It makes you smile. That's really all I want to say, except I want to introduce you to my family that's here, some of them. Even had to make a list to make sure, you know. So my husband, John, is way back in the corner. He's not going to stand up. Hold your hand up, John. Hey, John! John stays in Vail and on the ranch, so you didn't see him at Garden Club, and you never will. My son, Matt, who, of course, is mother's grandson. His wife and his teenage college graduate kids are all disposed of. One's sitting at home with their leg up in the air because they messed up her knee again. Carrie Donovan, mother's daughter, and I'm going to say for mother, because Carrie hates it, Senator Donovan.
Oh, nice.
And her husband Shad is next to her.
He's the sound guy.
He's the same guy in more ways than one. They are both deep into politics, but not in this room today. And then the son-in-law, Tim Kringle, is back there. Stand up, Tim. He lives here in Evergreen.
Diane.
I hate these things. And then mother's great-granddaughter, Hannah, is here. And a great-grandson, Danny. So I think that's it, and hope my oldest son, Matt, shows up here, and his wife, Pilar. What did I say? I said Matt? Matt's here. John hopefully shows up. He better show up. So I just want you all to have a great time, visit with each other, and we've got great food back there and lots of it. We have petit fours for dessert because those are always special in our family, and what the food we have are special things because I think it's fun to have those things you didn't get to get every day. So that's what we have, and lots of things to drink, no alcohol, sorry, lots of coffee and tea. So have a great time, just visit, and let's laugh about Mom.
There's stories you hear. I didn't know about this story, but you know that Louise had some special times with some very special people. And I didn't hear the story. I was reading it in one of our notes that I guess that the Sundance Kid gave her a little kissy peck on the cheek and touched her knee. And of course, we all know him as Robert Redford, in case you remember Sundance Kid. But it was by a fire, and I'm going, wow, you forget all the crazy things that age group does. I don't know. Now I'd like to bring up Anna Hoy from the Garden Club, please.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hold anything?
Just to you.
Okay, hi.
There you go.
I met Louise in 2010 when I moved back to Colorado and joined the Garden Club. Up until then, I'd been employed, so I couldn't get with the ladies. And she took me under her wing and took me in and was so friendly and kind and taught me so much that she was always near and dear. But my favorite remembrance of her is when she was in the rodeo parade. We borrowed a vintage car from a gentleman I followed home from his church because I needed a car.
Oh.
And he,
You do that a lot?
well, I did at that point.
Okay.
And Louise was so gracious to ride in it, and we had a nice magnetic plaque on the side as our founding member. So she will be sorely missed, but I have so many memories and poppy seeds. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I've got to get some of these copies.
At this point, I would like to bring up Tina Kellogg. Where's she at? Oh, you want to just talk from back there? Just holler real loud like you do.
A little easier where it's dark. Boy, how do I know Louise? I can't keep track and count all the ways. We met at garden club, where most people have met her. And I didn't know it been maybe about a year or so. And all of a sudden she called me on the phone. She goes, well, I have my husband and I would like to take you and your husband out to dinner. And I'm like, oh, that's how sweet that is, you know. And so we went to the then Tivoli here in Kittredge. And little did I know this was an arm twist to be the president of the garden. But I'll tell you, I was just in love with them thereafter that dinner. You know, Bill was quite the storyteller. And Louise would just sit right next to him and just look like it was the first time she ever heard that story. and you know she must have heard it 100 times, but it was, you know, to see the adoring look on her face, you could tell. I mean, that was just, it was love for both of them. And then as years rolled on with the garden club, then we found out that she was very interested in the sculpture called Flowers for a Friend. And she was adamant about seeing that thing come to life in Evergreen. And so I joined the bandwagon and said, okay, let's get her done. And I think it was almost 16 years it took us before we found money before we got a place, actually. We found out how hard it is to get real estate in Evergreen. But, so working through, well, Bill was still alive back then. We had several meetings at their house, and she was always the hostess with the mostest. So we worked a lot on that committee. And then after that, it was Wednesdays with Louise. And part of my fondest moments. And I would take her down to the garden centers. And we'd look all over and buy plants. And you know, just getting her laughing. I would tease her about her daughter. I said, you know, you can't buy that many plants. Your daughter's going to kill me. I can't let you buy that many plants. Well, I can afford them. I said, no. Diana's going to have me strung up if you buy more flowers. So that was kind of interesting. But in our many trips that we went back and forth, up and down the canyon, looking at wildflowers, and then it was time to get the bluebird boxes out. So we would ride all over the countryside in Evergreen. She goes, now there should be one up this road about another mile or so. And sure enough, there was. And we'd check, and we'd just sit on the side of the road and park and look. And sometimes we'd see them, and sometimes we didn't. And then one of the trips back up the canyon after our garden center tour, there was an injured owl in the middle of the road. And it was just a fledgling. I guess fell off the canyon and right onto the middle of the road. And so I stopped, and I was a little nervous because Louise was in the car, and I just stopped right there in the middle of the road in the canyon. And I said, okay, just wait 1 second. And she goes, oh, what is it? And she could see that it was an owl over there. And this thing was just, I don't know, like chicks are, they puff up their feathers. So it looked huge, you know, and it had made this clacking noise, but it had some blood on his beak, and his eye had been injured. So I got a jacket and went to scoop it up. But before I could get back to Louise and tell her what was going on, here she comes down the road on 74 in her little walker, making sure the owl was okay. So I think that's probably one of my favorite memories. That and looking at all of the flowers. I will see her in just about every flower I think I plant. So that's my story.
And so you know that all the flowers that are on your table were arranged by Tina. And she did it all last night. I don't think she slept for a couple of days, so tell her thank you. And if you notice the boxes they're in, that ties into Carrie's wedding. I guess, is there a story about that, Carrie? Were they boxes then, or did you make them out of something from the wedding?
They're from old barkwood from our places up in Eagle County. They were the flower boxes at our wedding.
Oh, that's special. That's cool. Well, I think Louise would love knowing that they were here to kind of brighten up the day.
And recycling, of course, because you can't be raised by Bill and Louise and not have a recycling program.
We have another person here, Sandy Swan, would like to come up and say a few words. She was with our Flowers for a Friend project as well. Her and Don and all of the gang.
Well, I miss Louise. She, to me, was kind of like a grandma. And I joined the gardening club in 2002, and I did not know the difference, I kid you not, between a perennial and an annual. Nothing. I knew nothing. And I'd sit next to her, and she'd just drop these little hints about flowers and, can't really plant that. I'm like, I don't even know what that is. But I really liked the international table where she'd bring in things, and then if you wanted to make a donation, you could. So I said, oh my gosh, this table's so cool. She says, well, come out here and let's carry some boxes in. So I got to be the box gal. And she taught me a lot. And when we did Flowers for a Friend, the sculpture committee, it did take a long time, but we met at Creekside, and it was just so fun, and she'll be dearly missed.
And I think all of you are aware of it and have hopefully been by it or always welcome to go by, but Highland Homestead, as you walk in, is the sculpture that is of actually Louise on a bench with the girl handing flowers up to her for her friend. And it's fun to go there. I'll go and pick up stuff like paper bags that get stuck on it and things like that. But on the sign on it, I take and I use a wax and a toothbrush to clean it up to make it all kind of nice and clean so it looks nice. So when you're there, people come by and it's great to hear the things they say. And as they read it and look at it, and they say, oh, how sweet. And so it is a spot that you'll be able to go and remember Louise sitting on that bench, and that is if the elk aren't chewing the grass that's there at the time. But we do want you to remember that, donating, that's evergreen. And over on the birds table there, I didn't want to say we were giving you the bird, that didn't sound right. But over on that table with the birds are some cards with the addresses for Evergreen Garden Club to help donate, the Evergreen Audubon to help you donate, and the Bear Creek Cemetery. That's the one right there by Christ the King Catholic Church. Everybody gets confused with that. Why is that called Bear Creek if the other one? Well, it's just because that's what it is. That's what it is.
It's evergreen.
That's what it is. What we'll do is I'll have certain tables go to go eat, get your food, and then I'll try to do it in groups of 3 or whatever, so that it goes fairly quick. Before I do that, though, I do not know if there's someone else that would like to comment or has any thoughts that they'd like to give out to all of you. Yes.
So yeah, my name is Mark Mounsey. I'm a member of Evergreen Audubon. And I just want to make sure everybody's aware that she was, as well as the garden club, she was very important in the Evergreen Audubon club, and as being our mentors and inspirations with respect to the birds. And one of my favorite memories of her is back in 2011 when we began giving out the Evergreen Audubon Founders Award. She and Bill, along with Sylvia and Bill Brockner, were one of our original founders, and they got our first award. And I remember when we gave that to her, or I gave that to her actually, her and Bill were so excited and happy. So it was nice to see the gleam in their eyes. So that was one of my favorite memories. So thank you.
Anyone else have a thought or? Yeah, Marilyn.
I have a lot of quilter friends, well, you can tell.
That's cool.
And one of them is making me a friendship quilt. I inherited my grandmother's friendship quilt, which was, of course, each square was embroidered with the friend's name. The last time I saw Louise was June 29th. And I don't know if you guys know, is Laura Meemer here? Laura is a quilter and an artist, and I think it's kind of appropriate. She also created the bronze of the foreman that's at Highline Homestead, just a few steps from Flowers for a Friend. So anyway, Laura and I visited Louise and helped her sign her and Bill's name on the square that will be on my friendship quilt. It's going to be so special to have that. Thank you.
While Marilyn is right there, and to tie this in to Louise, if you look here by the fireplace, one of the items there is a dipper. And a dipper that you use to put in a bucket of water to get a cold drink of water on a hot day when you've been working on the ranch. Just like the whole family does up in Vail and as we do here. But that dipper has a symbolism. It is actually an award given by the Evergreen Audubon. And a lot of us have a dipper that was given for working hard to help Audubon become what it has been today. And that's what that dipper is. But why we're looking at that dipper, Marilyn is in a project about all of our dippers, because that's kind of the, what would you call it, the Audubon...
It's Dipper Survey. We did a winter survey and a breeding survey.
Yeah, so,
and it's continuing this year.
There's a lot of dippers on Bear Creek and other areas. So if you get a chance, talk to Marilyn, find out where they are, and go watch the dippers. So it kind of it's not a skinny dip though, right? It's
No,
just,
no.
Okay, all right. Just checking. Is there anyone else that has a thought or a memory that they'd like to give us? Yes, please.
When we first moved to Evergreen, some 50-some years ago, Bill and Louise were the first people we met. My husband took a job at the Building Society where Bill worked. And if you think the housing situation in Denver is tough now, you should have seen it 50 years ago. And so we looked and could not find any place. And it was getting near school time, and the kids needed to go to school. So Bill says, well, we just bought a house, and you can move into the house that we're renting. So we did, up in Brook Forest. And she said, by the way, she said, the house is haunted. And it was.
Is that after you sign? That's after you sign the paper, right? Sign here, oh, by the way. That's right. There was somebody there, yes. Talk real loud.
I had the privilege of being Louise's nurse in hospice care in end of life, and she was such a gift. But when we first met, Louise asked me if I knew anything about flowers or birds, and she knew, clueless, and she kind of rolled her eyes for a minute and smiled sweetly and thought, okay, we'll have something we can bond over, I think. And we got to talking because I saw on her shelf the cookbook that she and I believe Diana put together of all these family recipes. And I learned of her love of cooking. And it was just, you could tell there was a passion in it for her. And we would sit together on her couch, so many visits. And Louise had pretty significant hearing loss. And she said one day, she said, I like you because you're loud. We'd together on the couch and I'd say, Louise, let's look at main dishes tonight. I've got nothing for dinner. I need your help. And we would go through page by page and she'd tell me, sometimes what family member or friend the recipe came from. Sometimes it was about this is when you have to make. And it was such a gift. And then I just have to say, when she passed, Diana gave me a copy of the cookbook that I have and just cherish. But she was just a gift. I can't thank you all as a family enough for sharing her with me. So, thank you.
Do I see any other hands raised in there?
Hank,
Yeah, Hank.
The life around the Mounseys started before I was out of college and high school. worked at the Bear Creek Association that is the one that put the A on the gate. The Ames family lost a child in an automobile audience, and Gus was the beginning of
The cemetery.
the cemetery. Oh, yeah. The, if you have any questions about the cemetery, give me a chance to answer them. And just as soon as the Mounseys hit Evergreen, they brought along the histories and the ability for the art of giving, where the people hitting Evergreen and the giving were we knew from the first the Mounseys were delights to live with it. And God bless the giving spirit of this little community we have. Thank you.
Thanks, Hank. I'm sorry this cord doesn't reach her. I would have gone over there with it, but it's a
I got it all on video and good sound.
Okay, good. Anyone else have anything? There's a couple stories that I think one I'd heard about is kind of interesting. You remember when they would drive around and they always had a shovel and a paddle that was hooked on the top of the car? Yeah, you remember that one? Well, they always had a shovel because you never know in Evergreen if you need to dig your way out of mud or snow or whatever. But what was the paddle for? Well, a lot of people asked Bill that, and he just waited for it because he loved to tell them that he says you never know if you're going to be up that creek with and you need a paddle. So, always a fun one.
Oh, that's great.
And then I kind of figured this out with what Sandy Swan was just saying earlier. Now I know why it took us so long to work on Flowers for a Friend sculpture. By the way, Ken Ball is the sculpture artist for that, and we learned more about sculptures than you'd ever know, and it was kind of cool to do all that. But why did it take so long to have that sculpture happen and get in place? Well, because as she mentioned, we'd meet every month, and we met at the Creekside Winery. And I think Louise, and I know Bill that owns the winery, knows that Louise loves wine, especially at the Creekside. And I think that was why, is that we wouldn't have meetings there if we had it done, so we took that long to get it done. And so, and there's, by the way, when you go and look there, there's some bricks that are there, and the bricks are in memory of Louise. And I think, well, I know that Linda has one there, and Creekside has one there, and the family does. So I would imagine if anybody ever wants to put another brick there, we can figure out how to make that happen. So again, thank you all very, very much for coming in today. Let's do this. Let's have these 3 tables there, and there. Go get your lunch, and when you get back, then we'll get the next group. Okay? So 3 at a time, that way it doesn't bunch up.
Is our table-
Thank you all.
Those-
We'll let you know when it's ready.